Okay, here we are. We're the morning after. All of the YouTube videos, all of the social medias, all of the comments, everybody's opinions, everything happening. Celtic edging closer to potentially signing Robbie Keane as their next manager. There's lots of thoughts, lots of feelings, lots of opinions about this. And lo and behold, I'm just another faceless mug with yet another opinion that probably isn't going to say anything new they haven't already heard before. But let's get into it. Robbie Keane potentially as the next manager. It's just, what do you say? What can be said about this appointment that hasn't already been said? It's all of the things. It's lazy. It's boring. It's just everything typical of how this football club is run by the current incumbents and Dermot Desmond. I mean, we are now months removed from Wilfred Nancy being sacked. We are years removed from Brendan Rodgers coming back for the second stint. And in that time, Robbie Keane has entered football management. And it all seems to tie in quite perfectly with Dermot Desmond's obsession with Irish footballers or Irish people within football. Now, that's not necessarily in itself a bad thing, but his obsession is picking the wrong people at the wrong time. I mean, is it any surprise to anybody that in the 3 years that it's been since Brendan Rodgers came back, leaves, Wilfred Nancy comes in, gets sacked, that in those 3 years, Robbie Keane has entered in football management. And lo and behold, the second that opportunity comes up, that Dermot Desmond can go and get his little Irish toy, we're immediately interested. And there is concrete news articles stating that we have actually gone and got him in for an interview, potentially to take over from Martin O'Neill. If everybody's honest with themselves, the answer should be no. That's not surprising. Because all we need to do is look at history. We need to look at the times of when we've been without a manager, we're looking for a new manager, and lo and behold, even though he may have been inactive at the time, or he's just come off jobs that he himself was trying to achieve things with as entering football management, Dermot Desmond is not shy about going after the Keane name. You know, any of us that will remember of a certain age, anytime we've been out of a manager, probably from Tony Mowbray times, Roy Keane constantly gets picked up. He's constantly mentioned. There has been occasions, much like how Robbie Keane is now, there has been clear occasions where Dermot Desmond has sounded out Roy Keane, got him in, but Roy Keane, being a man of principle, whether you like him or not, maybe being a man of very strong opinion, again, like him or not, has come in essentially to be interviewed. The club then tell him what the ins and outs will be, what he's expected to achieve, what he'll be given, all of these things. And Roy Keane says, nah, mate, nah, not for me, and walks away. So Dermot Desmond now going after Robbie Keane is nothing else other than just a continued obsession of trying to get someone with the surname Keane into a manager position because they are Irish, and Dermot Desmond has no other thought other than that. So you can forget all of the other things that people are absolutely within their rights to have opinions about as to where Robbie Keane has started off his managerial career, where he's taken a wage from, who he's taken a wage from. All of that, for me, perfectly valid. If anybody has criticisms over where he started his career, where he's taken a wage from, who he's taken a wage from, how long he was there for, when everything's been happening politically, I believe is 100% valid. And that in itself is just yet another string in the bow of one of many, many, many reasons as to why this guy cannot be the next Celtic manager. It's not, for me, the single biggest issue. It is one of many, but it's not the single biggest issue. The politics around Robbie Keane is not the biggest issue for me. The biggest issue for me is the typical Celtic board behaviour of being very slow-paced, very reactionary. Nothing is done productively. Nothing done proactively. Nothing is thought out and considered. There is no net that they cast out. There is just simply one or two people, or just one person. We'll go back to Dermot Desmond, who just looks at a certain name and was like, I want that person. Robbie Keane, in management, in football right now, has not achieved anything in any meaningful league. Now, whatever people think of the Israeli league, whatever people think of the Hungary league, the league in Hungary, it's neither here nor there. He's barely been in management 5 minutes. Yes, he's won titles, but at the same time, you know, if we're talking people who've won titles or have won trophies, you know, would we want the manager who has essentially got promotion into League Two from the English divisions, from conference leagues? No. Would we want the manager who got promotions or league wins from League Two to League One? No. Would we want Neil Lennon back, who got Dunfermline into a cup final? No. Even though he's got a much larger library of work and is far more successful. Would we want those people back? No. Robbie Keane is just a highlight of everything wrong with this club right now. It's not his fault that he's being linked with a job. It's not his fault that he's coming into interview, because let's face it, you, me, everybody else, if it was us, we'd all go into interview. Of course we would. If you've got no job, like Robbie Keane, and you're being asked to interview for a job, you go in. You go and do the interview. The issue, the problem, is with our approach of how we find these people. Because if anybody has the opinion that the risk that we took on Nancy is what scares them, and if we don't go with Robbie Keane, or if we don't go with Martin O'Neill, or rogue shout, somehow we don't go with Craig Bellamy, not that he's likely. If we don't go with any of those three, people are scared that we pull off another Nancy. Maybe that's true, but that shouldn't be what stops us from looking and actually trying to cast that net wider and actually look across the whole bloody game of football and not just look at Dermot Desmond's Rolodex of Irish contacts. Like, it's just ridiculous. Like, because you mean to tell me that of all of the managers that exist in Europe, possibly even globally, but we'll stick with Europe for now. There is not a single manager that would have been received better by the fans and comes with at least a bit more comparable experience in league systems that are at least a bit more high level competitive. So you look at all the Scandinavian leagues. In those leagues, there is a plethora of managers, young managers, all doing well. All doing well. There is then, previous names that we've been linked to that at the time of this recording, I believe, are possibly still without a job, but have also come from jobs where they've gained a good reputation, but one reason or another, obviously they're now without a club, like Nicky Hayne. There are plenty of managers out there, all better equipped, better suited, less controversial, less toxic, less divisive than Robbie Keane. The moment, if he were to become this next Celtic manager, which is looking increasingly likely, the moment he steps in, the Scottish media are going to have a field day. They're going to set up a narrative that is very much fans against the club and the board against the fans. It's going to be very toxic. It's going to be very divisive. It's not going to be good. Robbie Keane's going to get fielded questions, probably about fan opinion, fan thoughts, fan feelings. How's he going to win the fans over? The fans have these opinions about this. They're very political. They're going to bombard him with those questions. And there will come a time where the proverbial straw will break the camel's back and he will not be able to handle that pressure. I am convinced of it. On top of that, with the jobs that he's done, because there'll probably be people out there saying, well, yeah, he won league titles. He won the title in Hungary. He won the title in Israel. That's great. Obviously, he has. It's fact. I can't dispute that. But what do we know? What do we know about his ability to develop talent, to find new talent, to see where talent exists and just needs that opportunity to play, to grow, to improve? What do we know about his man management skills? What do we know about anything he does with the squad, his coaching style, any of that? What do we know about the clubs that he's been at and their transfer policies? These are all things that we should be looking at, because let's face it, when he comes here, if he comes here, we know how it's going to go. Now, there could be an aspect of it that Desmond, out of pure and utter spite for the Celtic fans, ensures that Robbie Keane is given every single penny possible to try and achieve something special. But what has Robbie Keane done to prove that he can handle that he can be given that? Because we have, everybody knows it, we've seen the 70 million in the bank that's just sitting there wasting away, doing nothing. We've seen that we are very likely to get money for new sales of players like Negron, possibly Engels, most likely gone, Maeda, most likely gone. There is a whole raft of players that are about to leave the club. Stephen Welsh has gone on the free, which is just another ridiculous situation, as great as that is for him personally, because he's deserving of it and he needed to break away from us because we just weren't giving him what he needed. The fact that we let him go for free when just a few years ago we had clubs like Udinese potentially bidding reportedly £5 million for him is just comical. It's what can you say? But yeah, there's nothing about what Robbie Keane has achieved. There is nothing that he's done in the game that would warrant him being given the proverbial war chest, to coin a phrase, where if we assume for a moment the Celtic board suddenly, out of nowhere, against everything that they've ever stood for in the past, and just out of pure spite, like I said, against the fans, brought in Robbie Keane, was like, here you go, here's keys to the kingdom. Here is now silly millions. Go out, build it, and they will come. Do it. Does anyone seriously believe that he is going to be the man to be able to manage the egos, to manage the players, to manage expectations, to manage all of those things, to manage all of those people, the amount of faces that come in, the amount of faces that come out, to stay on top of that, to keep the players motivated, to give them clear instruction, give them direction, give them purpose, let them know where they're going, so they understand and they buy into it. Is he really the single best man that Celtic could find in the game of football across the world? No, he's not. He is simply just some dusted off Rolex card, Irish connection that Dermot Desmond has pulled out of his arse because he is obsessed with getting the Irish person in to the job without it being called nepotism, because they're not family. He is, or has been in the past, Keane on Keane, Roy Keane. He was never able to land Roy Keane. So now the moment that the opportunity has arisen that Robbie Keane could become manager, Dermot Desmond is on it like a fly is on shit. And it's exhausting. It's tiring. It's just what are fans expected to do now? This is too much. You know, bring him in, fine, okay, do what you want. But after everything that we had gone through last season, the back and forths, the Dermot Desmond's little boy reading out for his daddy, crapping over the fans, Brendan Rodgers, you know, also himself, maybe having a bit of an ego, saying stuff publicly, whether he's right or wrong, then leaves the club. Dermot Desmond writing that absolutely massive hit piece on him, the appointment of Wilfred Nancy, how bad that goes, the initial reaction of bringing in Martin O'Neill, letting him go because obviously we bring in Nancy, but we sack Nancy, so we bring back Martin O'Neill. Everything that could have possibly have gone wrong in a single season went wrong last season. And you would hope that with all of that, that would have been enough to shake the heads, to wake people up and make them realise that we need to be doing better next season. But yet here we are, the 4th of June, and we have essentially been without a permanent manager since Wilfred Nancy was sacked. And yet I could list off a whole host of clubs that have basically been far quicker, far more productive than we have been in hiring managers. You know, you only have to look at current news. Arne Slot gets sacked not even within a week. Iriola is essentially agreed to be manager. Benfica lose Jose Mourinho to Real Madrid. Benfica get Marco Silva from Fulham. You know, believe it or not, you know, at the start of last season, even the season just gone, at the start of the season just gone, or at least I think it was in May of last year, So it may have been at the end, somewhere close to. Neil Critchley gets sacked from Hearts, and Hearts hire Derek McInnes. Is Derek McInnes necessarily someone we want as the next Celtic? No. The point is these clubs are acting quickly. They've got conviction, and they're doing it proactively. Because then history, as we already know from the season just finished, goes to show what Hearts achieved because of that conviction. In that they took Celtic until the last game of the season against each other to the league title race. You know, there is so many clubs out there. I mean, Iriola announces that he's leaving Bournemouth at the end of the season. Bournemouth then announce their new manager pretty swiftly. We've been without manager since January, or whenever it was that Wilfred Nancy was sacked. Who knows anymore? I mean, everything's just a bloody blur. It's hard to say. And we're the best we could achieve in this entire time, when the board or Dermot Desmond or whoever wants to take it on themselves could have spent all of that time scouring the globe for the next manager. And the best they could think of was Robbie Keane. It's just... ugh. Yeah. What a state. What an absolute state. But yeah, those are my thoughts. Unedited, unfiltered, tired, exhausted, bored. But yeah, if you like it, give us a like, give us a follow. First video, let's see the reaction, let's get your thoughts, let's interact, let's build something, and then maybe we'll see you for the next video.